Hey, it's Brandon Laws. Welcome back to Transform Your Workplace. This podcast is where we explore ideas that help leaders build healthier, more effective organizations. And this show is powered by Xenium HR, where for over 25 years, we've supported internal HR teams with custom HR, payroll, and benefits solutions so that HR departments can focus on what matters most, their people. In today's episode, I sit down with my colleague, Nicole Blevins. She's a director of HR services here at Xenium, and we're here to talk about something every HR professional faces at some point: how to build a strong collaborative partnership between internal HR and outside consultants. Whether you're an HR department of one trying to juggle compliance, employee relations, and strategy, or a seasoned HR leader simply stretched too thin, this conversation will give you practical insights into what healthy support really looks like. Nicole shares how to set expectations early, communicate clearly, and turn what could feel like a threat into a powerful partnership that drives results. Let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Nicole Blevins on how HR can best support internal HR. Enjoy. Nicole, it is so good to have you back on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
So you play an interesting role. You're an HR consultant. You work with lots of small businesses across varying industries. So you play that role where you could be somebody's HR, like fully outsourced, or in some cases you wrap around existing HR teams. What's interesting is like I see it from the reverse perspective. I'm an internal marketing leader for Xenium, but yet I use outside consultants all the time for various things, and I'm able to plug and play where I need to. I can see a world where if you're wrapping around internal HR people where they might see you as a little bit of a threat versus a thinking partner. I just want to have this conversation about like, how do you maximize that relationship? Like you might have executive leaders bringing somebody like you in to augment an existing team. How can this go well from your perspective?
Yeah, no, it is an interesting dynamic because like you said, there are situations where people see a lot of value in that and they welcome the added support, and there are other times where they're like, whoa, is this person here to replace me?
Right.
What does this mean for me? Or they can feel a little threatened. So it is really important to start those relationships off on the right foot and like really come in and position yourself as a support to that person, an extension of them and the internal HR team, and not a replacement, right? Because there are so many positive things that happen when you bring in an external consultant. Like you mentioned, Brandon, you'll use them for various things because we recognize that I'm one person, I only know so much, and I'm not maybe an expert in this particular area of marketing or that or whatever. And the same with HR, right? Like I might be really good at employee relations, but like the compliance piece of stuff, maybe I'm not, or everyone is so different. And so having that additional bandwidth or support for projects or things that you don't have time for, or just a thought partner or mentor as well, can be really impactful. So I think it goes best when we're able to come in and position ourselves as that way and build a really strong relationship with that internal HR team or internal person.
Have you ever at the beginning of a relationship, or even I guess if a new person comes into play, or a team changes, have you ever done like a roles and responsibilities matrix of some sort? Okay, you're doing these
Yeah.
things, I'm doing these things, and here's where I could help you if you need, just to make sure that there's clarity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. That is usually one of the things we like to start with when there's a client that has an internal HR person or team, is to right off the bat just have the open conversation of where do you need our support the most? What are the things that you feel really good about handling yourself internally versus where you need that extra support? Or sometimes there are internal HR folks who they just really love this aspect of HR. And even though we could do it and provide bandwidth for them, that's something that is really meaningful or important to them that they want to hold on to. And so then we can talk about absolutely, if that's your skill set or your strength there, we can just provide additional support if needed, if you've got too many employee relations things going on at once, or whatever that might look like. So we like to start with that as much as possible because it also like sets it up for success on the front end too. There's a saying in like conflict resolution that like most conflicts come as a result of unmet expectations, right? Like you expected someone to do something or you expected something to go a certain way and that wasn't met, but we very rarely ever communicate what those expectations are or what that looks like for you. So it just addresses that issue of let's lead with what are your expectations of where you need our support versus what you're going to be doing so that we don't end up in conflict later of, oh no, I thought you were going to do that. Oh no, but I thought
Right.
you were going to do that.
Okay, I'm going to role play with you real quick. I'm
Okay.
an HR person at a company that is so resistant to having you on my team. You're a consultant and you're here to replace me. Make your best case why I should not be resistant and why I need you.
Yeah, I think at first I would want to explore a little bit more of why they think that. So I would start with some questions around, can you help me understand a little bit more about why you think I'm here to replace you? What's led you to believe that? What's caused you to think that? Because once I actually know what that is, whether it's them being like, "Oh, you just like jumped in and took this employee relations issue and that's my job and that's what I wanted to do," right?
Mm,
Then I can really make my case of, "Oh, thank you for explaining that to me. Like that is something that our team can support with and we know that's something that takes a lot of time and for people, and but if that is something that you want to handle, like we can know that moving forward. And what support would you like from me in those employee relations situations that come up, or what can I support you with?" So really framing the conversation of like how I can help them once I understand what it actually is that they need help with. So I think rather than trying to be super salesy and convince them to be on my side of, oh, I have 10 plus years of HR experience and my master's and my certification, like I could do all of those things, but that's not going to help them see the value if right off the bat they're like, this person's here to replace me. It's just going to make them
right.
think more about, oh gosh, all these qualifications they have that are going to potentially
Yeah, it's
replace them.
intimidating.
So I think I would like I can't convince you, like you have to convince yourself, if that makes sense. In the way that I can help you convince yourself is just by asking a lot of questions, getting curious about what leads you to believe that, what are your concerns, what would you like my support with, what would be most meaningful for you, and focusing it on that person and how we can help them see the what's in it for me factor rather than explaining to them all the benefits for the organization as a whole and all my skills and qualifications.
Yeah, it totally makes sense to approach them with how can I best help you? Like, where are your gaps? And then let's figure out a way to work
Yeah.
effectively together.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I sometimes say too, like I am very happy with my job at Zenium. I do not want your job. Like I recognize your job is like really hard and you add a lot of value. The culture and history of the organization better than me or better than anyone. And so like really also highlighting for them the value of like me partnering with them. It's harder for me to do all of those things when I don't know the culture so intimately and the employees so intimately like they do. Ideal state is really us partnering together because then
Mhm.
the employee and the organization gets the best of both worlds that way.
What does a healthy partnership look like day to day for you wrapping around internal or working closely with them? And maybe it's not day to day necessarily, it's
Yeah.
checking in every week, but I imagine early on in a relationship, it's like every company is using different tools of communication. So do you like figure out the best way to work with each other and then find your footing that way and then figure out a cadence? Walk me through
Yeah.
your approach.
Yeah, usually early on when we're doing like a kickoff conversation about the relationship and how we're going to support moving forward, we always like to schedule some type of regular cadence of touch base meetings moving forward, whether that's weekly to start and then maybe it's bi-weekly and then monthly, just depending the volume and what they've got going on and their bandwidth, of course, like their availability for that. But those regular touch base meetings is how we keep the lines of communication like open and ongoing of what's on your plate, what can I help you with, giving them updates on projects or things that are going on our end. And that is really like how we learn how to best work with each other, right? And work out any kinks. If they're like, oh, I thought you were going to handle this or something like that, then it gives us the opportunity to have that conversation of, oh, actually, we didn't have XYZ information in order to do that. If you can get that to us, we can. And just really having those conversations. And it's also how we build relationships and just ask them like, how are you doing personally? How was your weekend? Or just those types of conversations as well can be really impactful and change the dynamic of the relationship and make it work really well when we're able to build those really strong relationships and they see the value kind of step by step on that regular cadence.
The HR function is complex. There's a lot of both tasks from a administrative standpoint and from a strategic standpoint, and I think often the strategy takes a back seat
Yeah.
because of all the administration. So that being said, like internal teams can be stretched thin and overwhelmed, and I wonder how you as an HR consultant steps in as a true extension of the team versus just parachuting in there to work on projects.
Yeah, every client is different. I've probably said that a million
Yeah.
times, and I'm sure
Yeah.
you know that. But
Fair to say.
yeah, but I'll say it again. Why not? And so it depends on that internal HR person because there are some internal HR people that we'll work with that have a deep knowledge and expertise and skill set where they want to be doing some of that more strategic work themselves, but the daily employee relations issues and compliance questions or policy questions are bogging them down to where they can't do that type of work. And so when we come in, right, sometimes it's a matter of they want to focus on that strategic work and they want us to help with those day-to-day employee relations things that pop up, which we can do. And then they're more like satisfied and feel like they're able to make more of an impact directly there on site with the employees. And then there's some where it's the opposite, where the person that is internal HR is maybe more green in their knowledge or expertise. And so they are just trying to do the administrative day-to-day stuff and keep up with that. And leaders want us to come in and help them with the strategy pieces of things or mentor and develop that person as well so that they can start thinking more strategically at the same time. So every organization or situation is different, but in both of those examples, we're able to add a lot of value and really customize it or do it however the client wants it to be done, right? If you want that internal person to really focus on the strategy and free that's up, we don't have to do that part, right? We can do all the other things to allow that to happen. And vice versa, right? If you've got someone doing the day-to-day stuff really well and you really are just looking for outside perspective on strategy, what are other organizations or industries doing in with their PTO policies or with their other things? Should we do an employee survey and what strategies based off of that what feedback could we do to make this a better workplace? We can do that as well.
I want to end the conversation with some scenario based stuff. What advice would you give an HR professional who is green in a small organization where HR falls to them, who have you as a consultant? So, what advice would you give that person versus maybe a little bit large organization, but they have an they're an HR leader. They have experience. They're wearing a lot of different hats. They're a unicorn in some ways, but they just need bandwidth and help. So, give
Yeah.
advice to those two people.
Yeah, I think to the first situation where someone's a little bit more green in their experience, my advice would be take this as an opportunity to really learn and grow and absorb as much as you can and utilize us to be like a thinking partner, to ask a lot of good questions, to see how you can really add value and have the opportunity to grow in your career, maybe even within that organization with what you're able to learn and do for the organization by having us provide that additional bandwidth and support. So that would be my advice. And then to the second person, I think my advice would be similar in terms of letting us jump in and support and take those day-to-day pieces or those things that are bogging you down so you can really have more job satisfaction and be able to do those projects that maybe you've been putting on the back burner or these changes that you want to make that you just never seem to have the time for. So allowing us to really step in and support with those things so that you can focus on what is going to make the most impact, what's going to give you more job satisfaction, because it's never fun to be in a situation where you can't do the things that you want to do because there's so much other things that are important that need to get done, but that it's maybe not the highest and best use of time for you to be the one that does that. In both cases, it requires embracing this
Yeah,
this
right.
model and this partnership. And so I guess my overarching advice to both is just get curious, ask questions if you're unsure or uncomfortable with kind of this external arrangement, to really understand how you can utilize it to its full potential and how it can work for you and meet your needs and the needs of the organization.
Good stuff, Nicole. I appreciate the insights and really fun discussion. Thanks for coming on the show.
Of course. Thank you.